Let's talk about a huge stigmatized issue in our society, mental health. It's a conversation happening everywhere, from the Olympics in Tokyo to the streets of Portland. And if you're looking for an example of just how bad our homeless crisis has gotten, look no further than these abandoned boats on the Columbia River.
It's pretty much the Wild West out on the water. You can do whatever you want.
This is a really extreme example of a very complicated problem statewide.
And I think we can all agree the last thing you want in an emergency is for 911 to put you on hold. But that's what's happening in the Portland area.
That can make the difference between life and death.
Here's the story.
Good evening. It's late. Whew. What is it, 11 o'clock? I'm a little tired. Don't go to bed yet. I think you got 30 minutes left in you. I'm Dan Haggerty. Welcome to the story. Yes, this is the 11 o'clock news. Don't change the channel. For the people who normally watch us at 6 o'clock, hey there. Once the Olympics is over, we're going to be back at 6 o'clock. For everyone else who hasn't seen the story, here's the deal. We do the news, but we do it a little differently than the other shows you're used to. We talk differently, we cover issues differently, and we really rely on your feedback every night. So if you have an opinion on our coverage, or if there's something out there you think we should be paying more attention to, a story we should be telling, just let us know. Email us at thestory@kgw.com or message me on Facebook or use Twitter in the hashtag HeyDan. Now, the way that we do things on this show may seem a little jarring at first, but once you get used to us, you'll realize there is no other newscast in town that listens like we do. This is truly your newscast. Now, I hope you've enjoyed watching the Olympics. I have. My favorite event was tonight, women's gymnastics. I was a teenager when Carrie Strug won gold with this amazing vault on an injured leg to win America's first ever gold medal in the team all-around. It was one of the most amazing moments I've ever seen in sports in my whole life. It was captivating, and my coworkers made fun of me yesterday when I told them that I wrote her a letter afterward. I had a little crush. So what? Get over it. But from that moment on, I've always been in awe of those athletes and their toughness. I mean, frankly, there isn't an Olympic athlete who isn't tough, physically and mentally. I mean, they have to be. They have to be. It's impossible for them to get that far otherwise. So when Simone Biles dropped out over concerns for her health, specifically her mental health, I was as shocked as you. I thought to myself, wow, I mean, she must really be struggling. I mean, this is a person who has pushed herself to the limits for years. She has proven herself countless times, the greatest of all time. And she needed a break, even if the whole world was watching. I mean, if this sort of thing can happen to Simone Biles, it can happen to anyone. And hopefully, that fact helps people. That if they are suffering, they'll find the courage to speak up, that they can be vulnerable too, even if it feels like the whole world is watching, and get help and feel better. Unfortunately, as good as that all sounds, it's simply not true for everyone. It's not. For some people, no matter how loud they scream for help, no matter how many people are watching, no one seems to be listening. And that brings us to our big story. You see, this week in downtown, a homeless person in a mental health crisis stabbed a woman for no reason, randomly. The woman tried to get away. She tried to run, but she got chased down and stabbed multiple times, nearly killing her. And this happened on a Monday at 2 p.m., middle of the day in Old Town. She was a tourist visiting from out of town, staying in a hotel. Officers found her bleeding in the street. Now, the lady who stabbed her didn't flee the scene, didn't run, she didn't hide. Police say that she stayed there, covered in blood, acting belligerently. Yes, this is an extreme example of a problem, but it's not isolated. The Blanchet House has been helping people in downtown since 1952. They told us they have never seen a level of mental health needs this severe. It's so bad, they don't feel safe enough to fully reopen.
We're just not in a position yet where we can welcome people back indoors and serve in a way that is safe and compassionate.
Now, you may know this stuff already. I mean, ask anyone who lives or works downtown. I have plenty of stories from my coworkers right here at KGW. People who have been spit on or screamed at just walking to get coffee. And those are stories from just this week. I went down to the square yesterday to ask people about this and had this conversation with the second person I said hello to.
We just seen a couple walking up, 10th Avenue. A guy, parks
I'm like, wow, it's like there's no Karens to...
Who would you even call? Do you even know who to call?
No. What, the police? that wasn't funny.
No, because, well, you're not the first person I've heard that reaction from, because they feel that if they call the police, you could have a situation that could turn deadly for that person. Right.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Who do you call? You just allow these people, or do I just allow these people to suffer like that on the street? Because I don't know what to do.
I know, and that's sad to say, because I was just looking at a guy that was half clothed, and I'm like, dang, who do I call? Or do we just keep walking? And I mean, now it's sad to say, it's damn near a norm, and that's sad.
Now, the thing that she said there about the police, that may upset some people, and I get it. And that's not really the conversation I want to have right now. I'm not placing blame, but the facts are undeniable and pretty common sense, really. When you combine police and someone in a mental crisis, the stakes are raised. I mean, just yesterday, OPB published this article saying Portland police killed 2 people this year, and both sought mental health care before their deaths. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Dan, that's why I don't go downtown. Well, okay. Fine, but that's not what I'm talking about. This homelessness issue is bigger than the mayor's grand reopening. It's bigger than the economy. It's about our humanity. If we're going to applaud Simone Biles, if we're going to celebrate her for normalizing a focus on mental health, we can't reserve that attention for our most fortunate. Because like I said, people are screaming for help on our streets and under our bridges and in our woods and in places you would never even imagine. Right now, there are 2 ships on the edge of Jansen Beach that have pretty much turned into floating pieces of garbage. Morgan Romero now has a look at an extreme example of this complicated problem.
All right, dude.
Left abandoned, forgotten, massive military vessels that once served our country, now serving as shelter for the homeless on the Columbia River near Hayden Island.
It's kind of disrespectful in a way of what's happened to them.
It's pretty much the Wild West out on the water. You can do whatever you want.
Magnets for vandalism.
We have the Saccharissa, that's this one. This is the Navy tug. And then we have the Alert, which is the ship in front of us, the white one.
The Coast Guard Cutter Alert is a patrol, an active patrol boat, so it does law enforcement on the high seas.
Or it used to. It'd be hard-pressed to catch anyone now. It wasn't supposed to be this way.
The backstory on this is the best of intentions.
Since 2013, the ships belonged to nonprofit Columbia Watershed Environmental Advocates. A few years ago, KGW interviewed its founder about other abandoned boats. He had high hopes of preserving ships.
Unfortunately, it takes a lot to restore a vessel, and they fell short in funding and just the ability to get these things converted into something that would be safe for the public.
Any remaining hope sunk when the founder passed away. The nonprofit collapsed. So the historic ships sit anchored, falling apart, battered by the elements.
All 3 diesel tanks on this ship here were leaking last year. When I boarded it, we found it. It was about 6 foot deep in the bilge.
We ended up taking off 15,000 gallons of oily wastewater. So to date, we have spent over $300,000 to have these vessels assessed and remove any pollution that could be on them.
You know, where does the responsibility fall?
Turns out it falls on taxpayers. The Sheriff's Office, Oregon DEQ, Department of State Lands, Marine Board, and U.S. Coast Guard work together to get rid of the pollution. Getting the ships off the water is more complicated.
The real solution is to hopefully find a way to get rid of these vessels and to have them taken from the site and scrapped and no longer be a potential public hazard.
Like so many of you, my big question was, why can't they just tow off these old ships and destroy them? Well, it takes an incredible amount of expertise and money to do that. $2 million to be exact. And and there's no specific state or federal funds to pay for it.
This is a really extreme example of a very complicated problem statewide, and particularly here in the Portland metro area.
Right now, State Land says up to 200 recreational and at least 8 large commercial boats are abandoned and derelict in the metro area. Since 2013, the agency has helped get nearly 100 problem vessels off the water, but even more have been removed through other private and public efforts.
So while we're all completely committed to a solution for this, it's got a big price tag and it's going to take us some time.
Is there a timeline?
There is not a timeline.
On the black one, I used to live on there, and my buddy Tim used to live there.
Transients, like Matt, found a purpose for the ships.
It was convenient, and nobody told me I couldn't, so.
But he now lives on the beach after River Patrol told him to move.
From every angle, this is complicated.
Proud ships, stripped of their dignity, with nowhere to go. Morgan Romero, KGW News.
It's something we all learn at a young age. Call 911 in an emergency. But something we don't learn is what to do when you get this message on the other end of the line.
Please do not hang up. This is the 911 emergency line. An operator will be with you as soon as possible.
We got to look at what happens when 911 puts you on hold. When the story continues. Welcome back. Again, if this is your first time watching, this is The Story, and your feedback really drives this show. So if you have a question or something you want to see us cover, please send us an email at thestory@kgw.com. Maybe you'll have something to say actually about this next story. See, when you need help, when you're having an emergency, what do? You call 911, right? And the expectation is that dispatchers are standing by. They're ready to answer the call, send police, send a fire truck, send an ambulance, send something. But a KGW investigation found that's not always the case. Often, people dialing 911 are being put on hold. Last month in Portland, the average 911 caller waited more than a minute before anyone picked up. Here's Kyle Oboshi.
When Chuck Coleman heard someone messing with his mail slot
right here,
he quickly realized
in the slot, just kind of hanging out,
it wasn't the Postal Service. Instead, his home security camera showed an unidentified man stealing a small package from his porch.
So I saw this guy running off and I thought, whoa.
The suspected thief was quick, but not fast enough.
Yes.
The spry 71-year-old caught him at a bus stop just down the street.
And he was going to get on a bus. And so I grabbed him and I told him, I said, you know, I'm going to hold you for police. And so I called 911 and I was on hold. And I was on hold and I was on hold. And I finally, the bus came and then the guy was like, you know, going to get on the bus. And I thought, well, should I hold him or not? You know.
Coleman had been on hold with 911 for almost 3 minutes before finally giving up and letting the bad guy go.
I have to wonder how many people pick up the phone, dial 911, and then they get put on hold and they sit there and they wait and they finally hang up.
A KGW investigation found that Portland's Bureau of Emergency Communication, or BOAC, doesn't answer 911 calls fast enough, consistently failing to meet the national standard of answering 90% of all 911 calls within 15 seconds. In June, the average 911 caller in Portland waited 63 seconds to report an emergency. That could be a fire, a crime in progress, or a medical emergency waiting on hold for more than a minute.
Please do not hang up. This is the 911 emergency line. An operator will be with you as soon as possible.
How is this acceptable?
It's not. Absolutely not.
Bob Kazi is the director of BOAC, the state's largest 911 dispatch center.
I think it's important when you call 911 on the worst day of your life that you're able to get someone right away.
The issue, Kazi explained, is that dispatchers have been inundated with an extremely high number of 911 calls. In June, emergency dispatchers in Portland took more than 46,000 911 calls, a 21% increase from the same period last year. And that doesn't include non-emergency calls, which dispatchers must also handle after clearing all 911 emergencies.
The problem is when we're let's say we have a 911 call, we've just hung up with it, there's a non-emergency call in the queue, that pops into the call taker's ear right away. Okay, so they start answering that non-emergency line, then 911 comes in, that call taker has to wrap up that call in order to get to the 911 call.
This delayed response is both frustrating and potentially dangerous for callers, explained Coleman, who's also a paramedic.
You know, if you're somebody's being attacked and you call 911 and you're put on hold for 3 minutes, that can make the difference between life and death.
So what's being done to improve call performance? BOAC recently received additional funding to recruit, hire, and train more dispatchers by next year, growing from 118 positions to 131.
So that's a significant boost for us.
And are you able to fill those?
We're doing our best, yeah.
During the busy summer months, BOAC is moving some trainees and instructors into call-taking positions, which means more people answering the phone. And looking longer term, the agency hopes a new citywide 311 system will reduce call volume by directing non-emergency calls currently answered by BOAC to 311.
Is there anything else? Because based on what you've told me, I'm having a tough time seeing any significant measures that would bring you up to the national standards.
Yeah, that won't bring us to the national standard. We have just doing that won't bring us to the national standard.
Which means for now, if the high call volume continues, it's very likely that if you dial 911 for an emergency in Portland, instead of this,
911, what is the address of your emergency?
You'll be getting this.
Please do not hang up.
And have to wait on hold.
A call taker will be with you as soon as possible.
Let's talk to Kyle for 1 second. Kyle, the uptick in calls, we've been reporting about this uptick in crime. Is that the correlation? Is it that simple?
Really a number of factors. Yes, increase in crime, that means more calls, longer duration of those calls that dispatchers must deal with. But a number of factors as well. Cell phones, that's really changed the game. Now you've got people witnessing crashes, they're calling in, sometimes 10 calls after seeing the same crash. Dispatchers most work through those. Also, you've got those frivolous calls, we've all heard about those are troublesome. And then finally, some people just get frustrated and they hang up. Right. Here's the problem with that. Those dispatchers, they've got to go back and call those people back. That takes time to make sure everybody's okay.
Makes sense. Kyle, thank you. Now, we don't usually do the weather on this show, but it's going to get pretty hot this weekend. Not as hot as the last heat wave we had, but still hot for sure. Matt Safino is going to have your weather story when the story continues.
Hey everybody, I'm Matt Safino, and tonight's weather story is all about the heat. We hit 98 degrees today. Hot, and Troutdale, as you can see, hit 100. So already temperatures at or close to triple digits, and it's likely going to be a little bit warmer tomorrow. There is one caveat that could save us and keep us a little bit cooler, but still, we're going to be in the upper 90s tomorrow for sure. Redmond hit 100, 104 in Hermiston, the Dalles at 105, 104 in Ontario. So everybody cooking. Medford 104. Even the coast had temperatures in the 70s, which sounds delightful, doesn't it? Now, earlier we had thunderstorms, a lot of them building over and just east of the Cascades. Even a few sprinkles in the southern Willamette Valley, at least on the east side of the valley. We'll see a repeat performance of the storms again tomorrow. This is what it looked like earlier in the afternoon as those storms were getting going. There's Mount Jefferson looking south from our Skycam into Mount Hood National Forest at beautiful Timberline Lodge. New fire burning there too. It doesn't look very big, but we'll keep you posted on anything that may develop there. The heat advisory continues now until 11 a.m. on Saturday. That's been scaled back a bit from 11 p.m. on Saturday because we think it'll be a little bit cooler Saturday because of cloud cover from Friday night from thunderstorms that developed. Those same thunderstorms responsible for the fire weather warning here in red and a flash flood watch out for the eastern Oregon counties in green because we could get some heavy rain from slow moving storms as the monsoon feed of moisture continues to work its way north. They actually had a flash flood emergency in parts of Arizona during the day on Thursday afternoon. Now, our storms in the modeling don't look all that widespread, but they probably will be more widespread than what we are seeing right here. And then again on Saturday, we've got the potential for that happening again Saturday night into Sunday morning. So very warm tonight, lows in the mid 60s, sunny and hotter tomorrow. We're going to go for about 101. Then drop it to 94 on Saturday. Notice the morning low on Saturday is only 70 because of cloud cover Friday night. So that's going to be a really warm night. But then we're back in the 80s, and there's a chance we'll get some good old-fashioned rain towards the end of next week. We're back right after this.
Welcome back. And again, I appreciate you being with us here at 11 o'clock. Typically, we were on at 6 o'clock Monday through Friday, but we're doing something a little special because we haven't been on during the Olympics. Hopefully, if you haven't seen us before and you like what we're doing, you can tune back in after the Olympics and watch us at a regular time. Something you will see on our show regularly is something we do each week called our Hey Help campaign, where we highlight a nonprofit that could use some of your help. And during the Olympics, we're asking you to consider donating to the Northwest Association for Blind Athletes. They help a lot of people, more than 1,900 kids and adults, and they help them to participate in sports, to play games, and to get involved in physical activity. If you think this is something you would like to help out and give some money to, and you'd like to donate, just open the camera on your phone, point it at the QR code you see on your screen, and you can donate there. We'll give you a link, or you can go to kgw.com/heyhelp. Now this summer they're holding a sports camp in McMinnville. They call it Camp Spark. It's for kids and teens who are blind and visually impaired, and we went there to check out some of what they do.
This camp is really special because everywhere else in the world, a visual impairment can see as a barrier, but when they come to camp, we focus on making camp as accessible as we believe that the world should be.
A lot of people don't give them enough credit for what they're actually able to do.
Good job, bud.
Now we are calling this a micro donation drive. What does that mean? Well, it means you don't have to give some big, large amount of money, hundreds of dollars. Give whatever you can. If you feel like this is something that is doing positive work in our community, give a few bucks and it'll help out, no matter how small. And if you have any ideas, if you have some local nonprofits you think we should be highlighting on this show, let us know. We again read emails all the time. We tell you this is your show. It's a way that you can get involved in the community and inspire us to inspire others to contribute and help out. Now I want to read a couple of emails right now because again that's what we do on this show. And before I do that, this is another QR code. We like those here at The Story. This will take you to our weekly newsletter. So if you scan this with the camera on your phone, it'll send you a link. You can upload the newsletter that way. And if you just wanted to get a taste of what we do typically on The Story, that'll give you kind of the highlights from each week. We send out one once a week and it'll give you an idea of what we do, some of the bigger stories that we think are impactful and meaningful to this community. So a couple of emails that we got tonight. This one is from Steve, and Steve wrote in and said, "Hey Dan, enjoying the late version of The Story, but not sure I'll feel the same way in the morning. Looking forward to seeing you back on at 6 p.m. I'm not really sure quite how to interpret that. Don't drink and watch The Story. So if that's the thing, if you're staying up too late, sipping a few, it might make the show and me a little bit more enjoyable. But yeah, you're going to have a tough morning. If that's not what you meant, please clarify, write me back." And then Sam wrote in and said, "Hey Dan, this was off topic kind of to what we were talking about tonight, but he said, we keep hearing about healthcare workers who are reluctant to be vaccinated. While that is mildly interesting, I'd be more interested in hearing how doctors feel about being vaccinated and how safe do they feel." I don't know that that's mildly interesting. I think that that's very interesting, but I'll humor you and answer the question because we were recently given some data that shows specifically in each field how many people, what percentage of those people in the healthcare industry are getting vaccinated. So doctors, if you look at doctors, MDs, they're at about 87% in the state, which is pretty high. So almost 9 out of 10 doctors are getting the vaccine. And if you're listening to doctors, if you're watching the news, you're seeing time and time again how confident they are as a vaccine to be a huge mode of protection to keep people safe from the virus, to either keep you from catching it or to help you kind of not have serious symptoms to put you in the hospital if you do in fact happen to be one of the breakthrough cases of the virus. Of course, the vaccine is not a cure, but it is something that helps anyone when they come in contact with the virus, especially now with us dealing with the Delta variant. As far as some other parts of that, dentists, for instance, which probably doesn't surprise you because they're digging around in people's mouths with their teeth all the time, they're at about 94%. So about 94% of dentists are getting the vaccine. So keep those questions coming. Keep helping us to steer this coverage. We'll keep doing the best work we can. We'll see you back here next Thursday.